Thank you, Justin. Good morning, everyone. I am very excited to be on the stage today, and I'll have to admit that as a CFO, I am rarely slotted in the inspiration section of anything. But my goal today, this morning, is to provide some insight from a financial perspective and from my history and my experience as to why investing in employees makes good business sense. This is a particular passion of mine because I have seen over my career an awful lot of money wasted with companies spending too much time trying to control the costs rather than simply investing in their employees. And I've also seen the magic what investing can do. So I'm going to try to share that insight with you. To give you a little bit of background as to where I've been over these years, I am very fortunate to have been able to work in this industry across a very broad section of it. I've worked from startups to vast corporations. I've worked for the second largest holding companies within this industry. I've worked in creative shops, I've worked in powerhouse media agencies, and I've worked in pure play digital at Razorfish and Digitas. I've worked on a local, a regional, and a global stage. So I've probably seen every kind of scenario imaginable in this business. And all of that, without a doubt, I would say the single greatest step in the success or failure financially of the companies I have worked in is the performance, the management of their people, or the lack thereof. I have worked in companies where they have been bought and then sold, and I have bought and sold companies. And again, I have seen strong independent companies who have been merged into a corporate environment and they have completely collapsed. I've also seen the same scenario, strong independent company who have grown and thrived beyond their wildest dreams. Again, the single biggest differential is the care and feeding of the people. Simply put, those companies, those agencies with higher retention rates consistently outperform those with higher turnover rates. So I'm going to spend a lot of my time talking about turnover this morning. So people, again, they are, and as Max very eloquently put it, people are critical assets to our business. They really are the only asset. We don't have anything else. We don't have any widgets. We don't have any cars. We don't have any things. We sell our ideas. We are a relationship business. Without people, we have nothing. And there are countless studies that will tell you, and they have proven, that a very effective strategy in increasing your business performance by driving productivity and profitability is to actively get involved in developing and retaining your talent. And I stress the word actively. This does not happen by itself, as we're all experiencing with 30% turnover, in our business. With people, what they will bring you is profit, I'll guarantee you, if you invest in them correctly. So, to get straight to it, how does investing impact the bottom line? It impacts it in two very important ways. One, it reduces turnover, which in my opinion is the greatest financial drain in our industry. We are definitely fighting the war on talent because we keep stealing each other from everyone. And we're having to pay more and more every time we do this little trading thing that we do around all our agencies. So that's the biggest one. The second one is if you do have engaged employees, if you do have good programs, if you have built a good culture, you're also going to drive productivity and high performance, which ultimately leads to more profitability. So what this means is investing in employees provides a huge potential for one of the greatest ROIs in this business. What it does is enables our agencies to do several things, really important things. One is to be more competitive. If we have the best people, we're going to be smarter. We're going to have better ideas. We're going to produce better work. We are going to operate more efficiently because people are not, they're managed better. They're being trained to be better at what they do. They are being allowed to be more innovative. It will allow us to achieve much greater growth. And at the end of the day, what we're in this business for is to drive more profit, at least from the CFO's perspective. So, again, funny enough, Max and I have this both in here.
Good choice.
To me, there should be no corporate dilemma on if we should or shouldn't invest in our employees, because they will pay back. Now, another one that Max very eloquently spoke to is this whole issue about the asset versus a liability. People are a critical asset to our business, as I mentioned earlier. They need to be cultivated and developed. Unfortunately, right now, in our financial system, the only place that people show up in a company's financials is a liability, which is unfortunate, to say the least. And here again, Max and I did not share slides.
Scary.
But if as business leaders, we were required to list our human capital on the balance sheet, we would have to figure out what that true value of our employees are and explain that to the company so that they would have a better idea of actually the gold mine they are sitting on. It is the people. So this is a good one, but how do you put a value on people? Because simultaneously, our people are our greatest potential asset and our greatest potential liability at the same time, if they're not managed well. I think another really important point is that they are the only intangible asset that we can influence, but we can never control. We always are at risk at losing them, and losing them we do at a very rapid rate and at a tremendous cost. I love this one because, again, I'm going to emphasize that I strongly believe that turnover is the single greatest financial drain in our business. If we could stop the flow of this, it would be amazing. Turnover indicates several things. It is also linked to a problem with organizational performance, which means we're not performing at the level we should be. We're not delivering to our clients what we should be if we are having people going in and out the door. Because we don't have any continuity within our business. It is also linked to be honest, bad management. One of the key things, and I agree with what Matt said, is it's not just money why people move or what motivates them. The key reason people move is they don't like their manager, they don't get along with their manager, they're not treated well, they don't feel they're valued. Those are the things that, yes, the money has to be where it needs to be competitive, but they're much more driven by the other things we're talking about, innovation, being able to learn and be developed, those kinds of things. And you see this kind of a drain going on when you've got high turnover. If you look at companies with high retention rates, the opposite is true. You get higher customer satisfaction, you get higher employee morale, you get higher profitability. It just simply makes sense when you look at all these ways. So what is this costing? What is turnover actually costing us? And that's a dilemma, as I will take you through. This particular information is the cost of turnover to British businesses. This comes from a study from Oxford Economics called The Brain Drain, which was published earlier this year. And it's showing that it's costing British businesses £4 billion annually. And in my opinion, this is underestimated because the only two elements they are picking up is loss of productivity and the cost to hire a recruiter. We all know there's a lot more to it than that. But some interesting notes on the money here is they cited in the advertising and media industry, it's costing $184 million based on those two elements, and almost $2 billion in the tech community, which we are drawing from considerably these days. The big reason in this, as they cite, is the fact that in the media and advertising business, it takes up to 20 weeks for a new employee to hit peak performance, and almost 7 months for a tech talent to hit that because of the complications in it. So this is something that I feel very strongly about, and I've done some analysis for companies that I've worked for, is that the turnover cost goes way deeper than the two things I just mentioned. There's a laundry list here of all the things that happen within an organization. It impacts every single employee, generally speaking. When you lose talent, when you are completely churning, because you're asking the employee next to you to train this person, to help them along, to get them going, to pick up the slack, to do things like that. You almost always pay more for the person you're hiring than the person who left. You've got leaving costs, you've got administration costs, you've got lower productivity, not for just the person who has left. You've got lower productivity across the board because people have to stop and they have to interview. They have to manage, they have to mentor, they have to get them back into it. So there's a multitude of costs here. And one of the biggest driving one is the one here at the bottom, is that the realization that your asset has just become someone else's asset. Again, we keep swapping our assets in the room. So, this bags of money, I want to relay to you how it's going out the door and what the true cost impact of turnover is. There's all sorts of studies. You can look up all sorts of things online to give you and research things that have been done. I'm sure Max is very familiar with. But I'm going to show you ones that give us the best range of what happens in our industry and the laundry list of things that I've mentioned. It's very important that you learn what the true cost of turnover is within your organization. And there are several things online that will help you do formulas to figure that out. But this will give you some broad strokes. For an entry-level person, it will generally cost 30 to 50% of their annual salary to replace them. That's just the cost of moving them out and moving the new one in, 30 to 50% of their annual salary. If it's a mid-level person, it's 150% of their annual salary. And if it's a senior person or a difficult hire in a specialty area, which we're finding more of, it can easily be 200 to 400% of their annual salary. I'll give you an example, and I tried to make this pretty basic so we could follow along. If you've got a company has an average turnover 100%, so that will be a mix of the kind of people you're losing. If it's averaging cost is 100% of an annual salary, and you've got an average salary of £40,000 a year, it's a mid-sized company of about 1,000 people, and you've got turnover 20%, considerably better than ours. This would cost this company £8 million a year. That takes 5 percentage points off the bottom line for a company of this size. You can't find that kind of money when you're trying to increase revenues or cut costs, but simply by retaining your talent, even half of this, if you could reduce it to 10%, that's £4 million this company would put to the bottom line, or could reinvest into the company, or pay it out in bonuses to the people. So, why are so many companies willing, including all of us, to put up with the high turnover? One of the problems is, as I mentioned, is that the costs are largely hidden. There isn't a magic line on the P&L that says cost of turnover. If there were, I would guarantee you that management would pay more attention, because it's a very real cost. It's a very real drag on the business, but it's very hard to find the way things are booked. You don't put so-and-so spent X amount of time interviewing, therefore that cost goes into turnover. But it really is a huge impact. Another negative impact, turnover, is that and I'm sure because a lot of you people are in the HR arena, that our HR people are spending a disproportionate share of their time recruiting and replacing rather than training and building because of the churn being so high. It's extremely expensive and it's a drain. I'm going to show you, this is what I call a recruitment reality. These are actual numbers of a business that I have worked with in the past. And not an unusual situation either, but I think you'll get the drift when you see the graphic. This is just a headcount flow for a year. And this organization had about 1,000 employees, 900. And in that year, it grew by 49%. They had new recruits of 49%. You can imagine what that was like, just getting them in the door, getting them found, interviewed, on training, et cetera. They also had an acquisition that added another 67 people. But during the same time, they lost 36% of their staff. So, bottom line is to get an 11% net increase, because the company was growing, in their organization, they had nearly 50% new employees. Now, just the administrative nightmare of all of that, the impact on your other employees, but think about what your clients are. You've had to explain to your clients that you have 50% new people working on their business. It's dreadful. So, and Max touched a lot on this, and I'm going to emphasize it, being that I've spent the last several years more in the digital or tech arena, being with Razorfish Digitas, and working with media companies who are now moving more into the digital or tech area. That this is, again, this is causing our turnover rates to go even higher, because the tech community is, and probably will be for quite some time, based on labor market analysts, is that there is far too much demand and not enough supply in this arena. So they are higher sought after. We are probably fighting for them more so in this war for talent. We're having to offer different things for them. We're having to be more insightful about that, being recognized in the fact that they come from a different industries usually. Being in the advertising business for so long, you think, well, they're all just kind of coming from the ad business, but they're not. We are attracting these people from different areas, and we have to recognize how they're motivated and what it is they want. But what we're seeing in this that's causing the cost to go up, other than just a simple supply and demand, is the fact that they're so hard to fill, the positions are so hard to find, that we're getting very high vacancy rates. And vacancy rates, when you are building websites and doing more technical jobs, when it's more project driven, you're losing money every single hour. Each vacancy equates, in a digital agency, to about £60,000 in revenue, each vacancy. And when you have that sitting open, you're hiring freelancers. You're doing all sorts of things that are causing your cost to go up, as well as the fact that you can't produce the work and you can't get it done on time. We're also seeing higher cost per hires, because in this arena, we're having to rely more on outside recruiters because they're hard to find. And we're seeing a much higher rate of demand for signing bonuses. So just getting the people in is hard, and then we're letting them go out the door. So this churn is really driving the costs up. It's an area we really have to focus on. So what to do? As you all know, I am not an HR expert. I have a passion for it. But what I'm going to do is give you some ideas of where I've seen the greatest return and profitability-wise by increasing retention. Just very quickly going through some ideas. First of all, set goals. Set and make reducing turnover one of your KPIs. One that is monitored frequently, and one that management is accounted for. They have to be held accountable for this. In Razorfish, it was one of our, revenue had to go up by this, our bottom line had to be this, and our turnover had to be this. And every manager knew they were going to be held accountable for their team as well, of understanding where turnover was going. It was a very critical piece for us. Make sure that you write a business plan like you were writing one to drive new revenue. Make sure that you know how much you're willing to invest and what you expect for your ROI, and track it. Secondly, focus on your voluntary turnover. That's when people are choosing to leave you, but do not, underline, do not ignore the involuntary. Involuntary turnover can still be a sign of bad management. It's often driven by bad hires to begin with. You're not taking the time to get the people in, or you haven't engaged them, or you haven't done a good job of managing their performance. You could have turned these people into good people, into good employees. So don't ignore the involuntary. Make it a company-wide effort. It takes everyone to provide the culture, the environment, the aura of what you're trying to do to make it a great place to work. But in particular, the MDs in this room, make sure your finance and your HR team are joined at the hip. In many companies, they don't even talk to each other. Involve your HR people in forecast meetings, in budget meetings, because once again, with 70%, easily 70% of your operating expenses within agencies is spent on people. You're managing your people. Your HR people need to be involved at the beginning to know you're going to have a shift. A client is changing. You're going to add new services. They're going to have some idea then of what's ahead. You'll be amazed at what the difference will do if you can get these two groups to synergize. Hire the right people. This sounds rather elementary, but in a fast-paced business like ours, how many times have you been asked to interview and you go, oh, I don't have time, and you go ahead and you do it, but you're not really doing it the way you should be doing it, knowing that you're adding an asset. If you were going to buy a new car, you'd probably take a little longer. When you're making a big investment, this is an asset, and every time you're thinking about it, think of it that way. And I know at times, because I've seen it. When I was at Razorfish, we were growing 40% organically while we were doing acquisitions. It was a crazy time, and it was just too easy that if a person had a pulse, it was good enough. We could fill the seat, and I'm sure you've felt that way. So hiring the right people is critical. Another thing is hire the right mix of people. We get ourselves out of balance very easily in this business because you become myopic about this team needs this kind of a person, and all of a sudden you're top heavy or you're going to topple over. It should look like a pyramid of some sort. It should look like a pyramid. This will increase your leverage. What you need to do is build a staffing plan. Long term, it takes a long time to get it. You don't all of a sudden just go, okay, whoops, take all those people out, bring all these people in. It costs too much. But if you have the plan and you're conscientious about building the plan in the right way, you will get there. Make sure when you build that plan that you're building it that you have a very healthy balance of talent that ensures that you have proper client service. Obviously, we need to keep our clients happy. That you have upward mobility for your employees. If you're too top heavy, there's nowhere for anybody to go. And to make sure that you have ultimate billability. Keep in mind that the more expensive the people, the less profitable they become. So be careful you don't have too many at the top. It really will cause a problem on your bottom line. Motivation. I think Max did a wonderful job on here. Understand what motivates your employees. That's hard when you've got all these different generations working with you, but you really need to understand what motivates them. Make sure you are addressing and feeding that motivation. Be bold, come up with new ideas, come up with a better mousetrap that your competitor doesn't have. Create an environment that people don't want to let go of. It's those things that they can probably give up the money, to be honest, but they can't give up the environment. If they have more flexibility, if you've made their life easier, if they're allowed to grow and innovate and be inspired, all those things are the things that will drive them and keep them. There's all sorts of different things here. And the tech talent area, another key area, and when Max was asked the question about money, is I would add another bit here on it, is that in today's youth, of which we have, I was very happy to hear that the average age is about 34, is that they are motivated financially more by having a larger percentage of variable or at-risk pay than a base salary. Think about it. The more you just keep paying them, the return is less. I've seen it work when you start paying them an adequate base salary, but have an opportunity to earn more if they innovate, if they get a new client, if they are doing something over and above. That keeps people motivated. When you keep paying just people more and they get the same money if they, do it this way or that way, unfortunately, people tend to just, if I do more, I'm not going to get a bonus anyway. But if you give that carrot to most people, and most people that are the kind of people we want in our business are motivated this way. So I'd really, really look at that. It's sometimes very hard for companies to go, ooh, that's scary. But if you build it that it's self-funding, it works like magic. Be transparent. And this means that people need to understand what your expectations are and what rewards they're going to get for it. And be as transparent as you possibly can. This is one that I've seen probably the greatest return on investment is to produce a variable at-risk bonus plan where everyone understood what the company had to do, what the region had to do, what their office had to do, and what they personally had to do, and how much it was worth. It completely turned it around because this company originally had a bonus plan where the employees believed that the CEO went into a closet and decided who got what, and then came out and that's who got money, or if they were their favorites. And it wasn't true, but it was a terrible demotivator. What this did was completely reverse that. People were so motivated that they made sure that they did what they needed to do. We were able to get more teamwork because we built it so that it created teamwork. You had to be a team player to win. And we were able to self-fund this budget, this bonus, way beyond our dreams. Beat the competition. Time, almost done. Beat the competition. Again, come up with something, a new mousetrap on how you pay them, how you offer them, how you treat them. There's nothing better. And again, engage your employees. There's all sorts of, again, things you will see that if you have engaged employees, what they will do for you. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is create an environment where people can do great work. That's going to bring the rewards that you want. It's going to bring the rewards they want. And as Steve Jobs said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you create an environment, an aura, the way you pay them, the way you train them, and people walk away loving what they do because they work for you, I guarantee you, this is what you'll get. Thank you.